What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So every single year, guys elevate their play in the playoffs to such a degree that it kind of shocks us. And sometimes those guys are pending either unrestricted or restricted free agents. And as a result, they get a decent bump in the salary that they were expecting, the contract that they were expecting come July 1st, come re-signing. So today I wanted to run through 8 guys that I think have done exactly that. These guys aren't like guys that were going to make the league minimum. Now they have absolutely exploded. No, these are pretty well-known guys, but guys that have proven that, yeah, I can ball out in the playoffs. I'm playing fantastic right now through like 8 to 10 games. I want another $500,000, another $1 million on my 5 to 6 year contract. So let's go through it right now without further ado. Up first, this one's pretty obvious, but Jeremy Swayman is a pending restricted free agent, and I think he made it obvious with his run. He has a 931 right now. Mind you, I'm filming this at the start of the Boston Bruins Florida Panthers game where he's playing pretty good, but coming into this game tonight, which is probably only going to go up, he has a 931 save percentage, and that's with mainly it being that like bad. It's still fantastic. I don't know what I said bad, but it went down the last 2 games because he kind of got shelled by Florida. Before that, he had a 955 through his first 7 games of the playoffs, so he has been fantastic. He was the reason why they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're calling a spade a spade. Don't get me wrong, Toronto choked as well, but he wasn't getting a ton of goal support, ends up pulling out that series. So I think at this point, they're probably just going to lock him up. He's made it abundantly clear that they need to get rid of Linus Ullmark. They need to trade for forward help for maybe another defenseman in order to overall help him instead of paying $5 million for a guy that sits come playoff time. So Swayman is probably looking at like a 6-year deal. And I think that based on his play, 920 last year, they were a fantastic team. Don't get me wrong. This year, 916 in 44 games. I think you just lock him up on like a 6-year, $6.5 to $7 million contract for a guy that's only, 25, 26. It might seem steep just because we haven't really seen a ton of goalies recently get paid, but I'd lock him up. I definitely lock him up. You're going to get him for his prime years, 6 years, $7 million, even 7.5 I would probably do, especially if you're shipping out Ullmark for maybe a cheaper player just for cap space in general. Lock up Jeremy Swayman, and he has rightfully so earned a decent raise on his next contract. Maybe even before this, they might have bridged him and ran back Ullmark. That ain't happening anymore. Next up, Nikita Zadorov. When looking at Nikita Zadorov, 4 goals, 3 assists in 7 games right now for the 6-6 or 8 games, maybe. Yeah, 8 games for the 6-6 defenseman. You look at him, physical guy. Wasn't that good for the Canucks in the regulars. He was okay. He was a perfectly good, like, third pair defenseman for the most part, playing around 17 minutes a night, only had 14 points in 54 games. But yeah, he has elevated his play, has 7 points. And when looking at it, he's playing a lot more. He's playing 20 minutes a night. And that's just not, the Canucks have only had 1 overtime game and then went 5 minutes. It's not like they've had like a double overtime game where his time on ice got inflated. But when looking at it, he's playing 20 minutes. He's playing legit second pair role right now. And he has been very good for the Vancouver Canucks. A 5-on-5, he's a 58.9% expected goals percentage, as well as just straight up goals wise. They're outscoring. It's 60. He has a 60% goals percentage when he's on the ice. So he has been very good. And when you look at these physical defensemen that or have some playoff experience, what they get paid on the open market, if you got a Ben Sherratt 4-year, 4.75, 4-year, $5 million contract after this performance that he's having, considering he's like 2 years younger than Sherratt when he hit the open market, I wouldn't be shocked if someone gives Zadorov a massive bag, considering his physicality, his size, and the fact that he is performing not only defensively, but especially he's showing some offensive flair during these playoffs. Stuart Skinner needs to stop that 1 goal. I believe it was in game 1. He needs to stop that. But when you look at Zadorov, I think he's going to get paid. I think he probably played himself out of the Canucks pay range. So right now, it's going to be very interesting to see what he gets when he hits the open market. It's probably going to be an overpay. I'm not going to lie, but he got paid. Good for him. Good for him and his family. Next up, Brandon Montour. Last year, 73 points. You thought he's going to get a massive bag. Zito, rightfully so, doesn't re-sign him immediately because that was a clear career year. Then during the regular season, after coming back from, I believe it was shoulder surgery, he has a little bit of a disappointing season. Still a very good player, but only 33 points in 66 games. So it looked like he may have kind of fumbled that bag. But no, in the playoffs now, he has 8 points in 8 games right now. He's leading the Panthers in ice time by right around the minute ahead of Gustav Forsling. He has had 2 goals and 3 assists in the Panthers' game 2 and game 3 wins against the Boston Bruins. He is showing yet again why he probably is the Florida Panthers' overall number one defenseman, especially offensive number one defenseman, and why he is so critical to this team. I think he's probably still going to re-sign in Florida, but he definitely bumped up his AAV, let's say 500, maybe 750,000, just because of how effective he has been in the playoffs. He was very good last year in the playoffs for them in the regular season. This year, regular season, a little bit disappointing. If they did lose in the first round, maybe he only gets like $6 million. I think he's probably going to get $6.75, $7 million, especially if he hits the open market. Someone's going to give him a massive bag considering his track record, especially of late in the playoffs. Next up, we have Jake DeBrusque. When looking at Jake DeBrusque, he looked like he was completely expendable for the Boston Bruins. Didn't have that good of a season, only 40 points after having like 45 and 54 games last year. But no, he was great against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and overall he has 5 goals and 3 assists for the Boston Bruins. He's not going to get this massive bag, but yeah, I think he was probably, the Bruins were going to be like, we don't really want you anymore. Beat it. Now he'll get a serious contract, whether that's with the Boston Bruins or not. He has definitely made himself a decent amount of money based on his play in these playoffs, especially on the power play with the Boston Bruins. And if he hits the open market, someone's going to look for a guy that can produce on the power play like Jake DeBrusque has in these playoffs. So he has definitely made himself a fair chunk of change. Next up, we got Brady Skjei. Brady Skjei did have a very impressive 47 points during the regular season. He was going to get paid probably on the open market because Carolina has a shit ton of unrestricted and restricted free agents, but he was going to get paid regardless. But especially after these playoffs, it is only going up probably a decent amount, maybe even $1 million more. When looking at him, 1 goal, 7 assists in 9 games right now for the Carolina Hurricanes has been that puck moving defenseman that they obviously need, especially with the guy like Brett Pesce going down. They don't have that. They have solid defensive depth, but like they needed like Tony DeAngelo to draw into the lineup. And even with Tony DeAngelo, Brady Skjei has still been very good for the Carolina Hurricanes. Right now, the best analytical line in the playoffs is Ekholm and Bouchard at like 65% expected goals percentage. Makar and Taves is second at 64. Tony D and Brady Skjei are the third best analytical pair at least 75 even strength minutes right now at 63.2%. He is carrying Tony D to become one of the best pairs in the entire playoffs. He is playing great. He has probably been their best overall defenseman right now for Carolina. So when looking at him, he might be playing himself out of pay range for Carolina. I think he's definitely going to hit the open market. I don't really think they're going to re-sign him after this when his value is so high. So it's going to be very interesting to see when he hits the open market. It's a little bit risky. He is starting to get up there in age, but I think a team that's teetering on the playoffs will give him a solid big contract. Probably like maybe he might be like sniffing $6 million. Again, 47 points during the regular season. And after these playoffs, it's been so impressive. You could maybe trust him. He's on Carolina, so he's like the second pair guy, but I think he could be a solid top pair guy on a 85 to 95 point team. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but someone is going to give him legit low end top pairing money, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see once he's away from Rod Brind'Amour how productive he really can be. Casey Mittelstadt has been very good for the Colorado Avalanche. A little bit of a rough start, so he's definitely made some more money in the playoffs considering in the regular season. Only 10 points in his first 18 games, but now come playoff time, he has 7 points in 8 games. Mittelstadt's main line of him, Parise, and Lehkonen has been fantastic, was one of the main reasons why they whooped up the Winnipeg Jets in those final 4 games. Right now, they have a 59.3 expected goals percentage in like 75 minutes together. They have been fantastic. Mittelstadt is proving himself as that legit second line center. He's not a top 10, not top 5 second line center, probably even in these playoffs, but he's definitely capable of being a second line center after playing pretty much irrelevant hockey for all of his career in Buffalo. He has been very good for Colorado, and after trading Bowen Byram, I think they are going to lock him up, and the price is only rising game after game with Mittelstadt playing very good like he is right now. If they beat Dallas, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he got a 4 to 5 year deal. They can't give him probably like an 8-year deal, but like a 4 to 5 year deal worth maybe a little bit north of $6 million. I could see happening for Casey Mittelstadt. He had 57 points this season on top of last year being right around this pace. He is a legit 60-ish point second line center, and he's young. It's not like a Nazem Kadri where Colorado was like, you're 31, 32. We're not paying you what the Calgary Flames are paying you, 7 years, $7 million. Nazem Kadri was great this year, but still, you got what I'm saying? Like age-wise, Mittelstadt definitely fits more into their core than like a Nazem Kadri, so I think they're going to make the money work, but the money has definitely gone up because of these playoffs. Next up, Steven Stamkos. he was going to get paid regardless. I don't think it's been massive, but the fact that he scored 5 goals, had an assist in 5 games, was one of 2 players on Tampa. Hagel was the only guy. He only had 3 goals. Everybody else had 2 or less. Steven Stamkos was still their go-to guy, say, on the power play. And I think whether he re-signs with Tampa, he's going to go to them and say, I still got it. I've scored 40 goals and 41 assists in the regular season, but also in the playoffs. I still got it. Against Toronto last year, he was pretty disappointing. He only had 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points in 6 games. So you thought, oh, maybe he's getting up there in age. Maybe he doesn't have the same playoff impact. This guy's still a gamer. He's still going to get a decent contract. And if he hits the open market, somebody's going to look at that playoff performance and say, Steven Stamkos is still Steven Stamkos. He still has it. He's still a very, very good player. And as a result, he's going to earn himself maybe a little bit more money or maybe another year on a deal instead of 3 years, instead of 3 years. Now the Tampa Bay Lightning say, yeah, we can give you that 4th year because you look so good in the playoffs. It's definitely conceivable. And then lastly, this is the 8th one. This is the 8th one. Dakota Joshua, when looking at Dakota Joshua. I almost said Dakota Johnson again. I did that in a prior video. Goddamn star of Madam Web. Dakota Joshua. Looking at Dakota Joshua, very, very good regular season, scoring about half a point per game. He kind of like put the Canucks on his back in game 1 against the Nashville Predators. He had 2 goals and an assist. And even in game 1 against Edmonton, he was very good as well. A goal and 2 assists. So looking at it, he has 7 points in 8 games right now. When he's really on, he is pivotal to this team with that third line. And I think considering 18 goals, 14 assists, 32 points in 63 games during the regular season, on top of just being very good in these playoffs, he's going to be a pretty expensive player. He probably went from before the coming into the season, you thought, oh, he's just going to get like a deal and probably in like the $1 to $1.5 million. I think on the open market, if he reaches it, he could get like a 4-year, $3 million deal. He has proved himself as a very, very good second liner. Maybe on a lower team, he could honestly be he's a good third liner on an actual contender, which the Canucks are. But if he goes to a different team, maybe he could be a second liner on like an average to below average team. There's definitely going to be a very big market for him. If I'm a Canucks fan, I'm praying that I'm re-sign him, but he's definitely going to get a decent amount of money after these playoffs. So when looking at it, Swayman, Zadorov, Montour, Shea, Middlestat, Stamkos, DeBrusque, Joshua. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Any other guys? Sam Reinhart has 4 goals, 4 assists in 8 games. I don't think that earned him some raise. Gensel's playing fantastic, but we expect that from Gensel. I didn't go with any like the stars because they're playing like stars should. So let me know in the comments, any other guys that are pending restricted or unrestricted free agents that are getting big paydays in part, or getting their paydays even a little bit extra because of these playoffs. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? I'll be seeing you in the next one.